Thanks for coming today. My name's Kathy Gruber, and first I'd like to remind you to silence your cell phones. After Lisa's presentation, there'll be some time for questions, so if you could hold them till the end. We'll probably go till just 10 of 3 because we have to be out by 3. Since this program's being recorded, I'll pass around this microphone for to use when you ask questions, so please don't speak until you actually have the mic in hand. Lisa Sylvester is the co-owner of Interrobang Design, an award-winning and internationally published strategic brand development and graphic design studio in Richmond. 3 years ago, Lisa faced a high risk of developing breast cancer. To manage the risk, she chose a bilateral mastectomy. In considering after-surgery procedures like reconstruction, Lisa decided to go flat instead. As a result, she became aware of the persistent stigma of aesthetic flat closure and learned that it's not routinely offered, often discouraged, and poorly understood. Motivated by her experience and the stories of others, Lisa created Still, a groundbreaking advocacy project that redefines perceptions around women's bodies post-mastectomy. In this presentation, Lisa shares her personal story, the challenges women face around going flat, how Still was created, and the impact the project has had in one short year. So without further ado, please give a warm welcome to Lisa Sylvester.
Thank you to the Richmond Senior Community Center for having me. It's really a treat to speak in my hometown about this project. So I want to just start by just reiterating a little bit of what Kathy just said. So it still is an Interrobang design project. And Interrobang is, like you said, a strategic brand development and graphic design studio co-owned by myself and my partner in life and design over there, Mark Sylvester. And so all of this work kind of came up and was created in our studio on Huntington Road in our barn. I'm going to have to get the knack of this thing right here. Okay. So Still is about shifting perceptions between breasts and beauty. There's a lot of, like she said, a lot of social stigma between the two. And what we're doing is really creating awareness of aesthetic flat closure as a valid reconstruction option and promoting flat visibility and body positivity. And we're doing that by sharing a curated collection of stories and images of people who have chosen to go flat. If you don't know what aesthetic flat closure is, it is the medical term for a reconstruction of a smooth chest wall as opposed to breast mount reconstruction. The term aesthetic flat closure is relatively new. It was only coined about, well, in 2020 was added to the National Cancer Institute's Dictionary of Cancer Terms. Before then, there was no right way to really talk about flat closure and what it was or how to ask for it. So that leads into my story, which you heard a little bit about. I'll stand on that. So this project is a series of brave moments, one after the other. It's had me out of my comfort zone over and over and over again. The first brave moment was genetic testing. So I was at my doctor's office yet again with a cancer scare, and I've had many of these, breast cancer and ovarian cancer scares throughout my life. And my doctor said, I worry about you. Would you consider doing genetic testing? And I said yes. And the reason being is it could provide some information that would help direct my care. And she said it could open up a can of worms, and I was not concerned about that because I did not have a large history of cancer in my family. And so I thought the results were going to be negative and we would just be ruling something out. My genetic counselor felt the same way. She did a thorough history, took a thorough history of my family, and also felt that the results were going to be negative. And my OBGYN, the one who asked me about doing this test, said, I think it's going to be one of the other lesser known genetic mutations. So lo and behold, I have a BRCA gene mutation, which was a big surprise. I'm the first one in my family to know this information. BRCA is a tumor-suppressing gene. BR stands for breast, CA stands for cancer, and its role is DNA repair. My BRCA2 gene has a mutation in it that makes it less capable of doing that DNA repair, and therefore gives me a higher risk of getting breast cancer. Everybody has these two genes, male, female, all of us, we all have them, and they do a good job when they're working well. Mine has this wonkiness that just makes it not as efficient in suppressing a cancer. I was told that I had anywhere between a 64% or 65% to 94% lifetime risk of getting breast cancer. When I got this diagnosis, I realized I really entered a numbers game. Depending on who I was speaking with, depending on what resource I was looking at, the numbers were all over the place. And the fact of the matter is that I don't know what my actual risk of getting breast cancer is. I don't know what protective factors that I have that might mitigate my wonky gene. I only know that it is a statistically significant chance of getting breast cancer. With the BRCA2 mutation, I'm actually at high risk for a number of cancers. Ovarian cancer is another one, and those ovarian and breast cancer are two cancers that we can do take risk reduction measures. So I had my ovaries and tubes out to reduce my ovarian cancer risk. And for breast cancer risk reduction, I was offered these three options. The first is surveillance, and that would look like alternating between a breast MRI and a mammogram every 6 months for the rest of my life. The second was tamoxifen. That is a hormone therapy that can reduce the incidence of estrogen-related breast cancers. And the last one was mastectomy. So let's go through those again. Surveillance, every 6 months, a scan, the cost of the scan, the disruption in my life having to go get these scans done, and the anxiety of waiting for a result. Felt like it was waiting for the other shoe to drop, so that wasn't a good fit for me. Tamoxifen, I was told I could take that for 4 years, and they weren't sure what the actual benefit would be and how long it would last after my course. And a mastectomy, they said, would reduce my risk to lower than the general population's, to around 1%. The general population's risk is around 13%. That seemed like a no-brainer to me. My oncologist that I was consulting with at the time said, but surveillance is good. We are really good at catching a breast cancer early. And I thought, I don't want to catch a breast cancer at all. And so I said, I'm going to have the double mastectomy. The next question I was asked is, how are you going to put yourself back together? And there are a couple of options that are readily presented to patients who are having mastectomies. Implants is the first one, and autologous flap surgeries were the second one. I had major concerns about both of these. We've all heard stories about implants. I have a very sensitive body, and the idea of having a foreign object in my body, I just kind of felt like that wasn't going to go well. I was concerned about cutting my muscle to accommodate an implant, although now they can do implants above the pec muscle. I was concerned about cadaver mesh wrapping that implant being inserted into my body. I was concerned about breast implant illness. I was concerned about being cold all the time because I've heard from other sources and friends that you're cold when you have implants because they don't retain heat. They actually sell warmers that you can put in your bra to warm up your implant so you don't feel cold. So that wasn't a good fit for me. And the flap surgeries are big surgeries. That's when they're actually taking donor tissue from other parts of your body and rebuilding breast mounds out of your own skin and tissue. It's a microvascular surgery. It's a complex surgery. It's often multiple surgeries. Both of these things often result in multiple surgeries. For implants, the need for tissue expanders, and then getting the implants in, and then further revision surgeries for aesthetics. That's if everything goes well. Same thing with the flap surgeries. You have twice the amount, at least, of incision sites to take care of that can cause problems, and you run the risk of the tissue dying. There are all kinds of problems that could happen. And I was going into this from not a cancer diagnosis, but as a healthy person. And so I was really looking to mitigate my risk as efficiently and easily and safely as possible. And these things felt like they were adding complexity that I didn't want. But I didn't know what other options there were. And that's when I found a photo online of a woman who went flat after a mastectomy, and I thought, what is that? And then I did more research, and I found an organization called notputtingonashirt.org, if you want to look them up, they're amazing. And they have great resources and information about aesthetic flat closure, and they have a surgeon directory, and I actually used that surgeon directory to find a surgeon in Vermont that would provide a flat closure for me. So that came to brave moment number 2, was actually having the mastectomy. Because let me tell you, going into this as a healthy person is a wild ride. But I did it. I got to the hospital. I had my last mammogram ever. I headed off to the hospital 5:30 in the morning. Was home by 1 or 2 in the afternoon. Then the next day, I took my bandages off, and I was shocked at what I saw. So even though I was prepared, I knew what flat closure looked like. I'd seen multiple pictures of different bodies with flat closures. When you see it on yourself, it's quite shocking. But I was still smiling because I knew that risk, that high risk of getting breast cancer was gone. That leads into still start. So, and brave moment number 3 was starting my own Instagram account. So I learned, after I found that first image on on the internet of flat closure and found Not Putting on a Shirt, I discovered a community online, and particularly on Instagram, where people were sharing their own stories of going flat, what that was like for them. They were sharing pictures of their flat chests and telling about their whole experiences, and I learned so much from those people. But every person's story is different, and I thought if those stories that didn't completely match up to mine provided value to me, maybe mine would provide value to others. So I started this Instagram account, and let me tell you, I'm an introverted person, and like putting pictures of myself up there, bare-chested, and telling the raw, honest truth of how all this all went down and how it was for me was scary. And I actually would toggle between keeping my account public and private because I was worried about creepers and people saying mean things, and that never happened. But what did happen was this. Very quickly, I started getting people commenting on my post saying, I get this. I can relate to what you're saying. I feel this too. You're making this feel all less scary for me. And I thought, okay, this is helping people. That's worthwhile. And so I kept doing it. I also really craved community. So Stacy, who is here today, started Fiercely Flat Vermont. And it's a group of flatties, as we call ourselves, all throughout Vermont. And we get together for meetups every now and then. And those meetups are wonderful. It's wonderful to be in a room with other people that have made the same choice, especially when it's a choice that needs to go against sometimes medical advice. It definitely goes against society and culture, and it's just nice to have that sense of community, so we get together now and then. But I craved more, so then came brave moment number 4, which is when an organization called Stand Tall AFC, which organizes teams of flatties to walk at cancer events or table at cancer events. And the founder of Stand Tall AFC reached out to me and said, hey, there's a walk in Lowell, Massachusetts, not too far away from you, you should go. And I thought, yeah, like I want to be around other flatties. That would be amazing, but also scary. I'm not sure about this. So I reached out to all my fellow flatties in Fiercely Flat Vermont. And I said, hey, there's this walk in Lowell, Massachusetts. Would any of you be interested in going with me? And I kind of was hoping for no, like I wasn't sure about this whole thing. And I kind of expected to know because we're a group that's geographically diverse. We're all throughout the state, so it's been kind of hard for us to get together frequently. But sure enough, someone said yes. And so I met Linda Casella in Woodstock, Vermont, somebody I'd never met before. We drove to Lowell, Mass together, and we walked in this walk with these other flatties. We walked topless for 3 miles through the streets of Lowell, Massachusetts, to create awareness of flat closure. And this is where I started to learn about the issues surrounding this choice. My path to flat closure was pretty straightforward. No, I didn't have a healthcare provider tell me about it and offer it as an option. I found it on my own, but I found surgeons that were readily willing to provide a flat closure for me and did a good job at it. That's not the case for everyone, and I started to learn about these issues here. which are really divided into two categories. There's a sort of the institutional healthcare side and the societal side. So on the healthcare side, we have situations, and these are all fairly predominant, situations of doctors not telling their patients that flat closure is an option. It's just not even mentioned. They say, you're going to need a mastectomy. Here's an implant. Isn't it nice and squishy? Don't you want it like this? This is what we're going to do. And so that's problem number one. Problem number two is a lack of support of it within the medical community. So I've heard numerous stories of people being talked out of going flat. So coming to your physician and surgeon and saying, yes, I want to go flat, and them saying, no, if that's not the right group for you, you should get implants. So not being supported, not being heard. And the third part, which I think I think they're not all great, but the third one is especially not great, is when a surgeon explicitly ignores a patient's wishes to go flat. So Kim Bowles, the founder of Not Putting On a Shirt, has a story. It's on her website. You can read it. You can watch the interviews that she's done about this. But she was literally diagnosed with cancer, going in for her mastectomy. She was on the operating room table, about ready to go under anesthesia, and her surgeon said, I'm just going to leave a little extra skin and tissue for when you change your mind. And she woke up disfigured. The impact that has on people is multiple, right? There's many impacts. There's a financial impact. She now had to invest money to correct this problem. She had to invest time. There's an emotional impact. There's a financial impact. There's a physical impact because now she was requiring additional surgeries that she was hoping to avoid. So I started hearing about these issues in my own accounts as well. So people saying, again, that they weren't supported in their interest in going flat, and that people really had to advocate and push for getting what they wanted. Which is funny to me because a flat closure is actually, of all the reconstruction options, the safest and the simplest. So the fact that it's not offered is astounding. This particular comment, it speaks to the societal issues. So, right, we are a culture that places great emphasis on breasts and beauty and the correlation between the two. And there's this stigma that a woman cannot be a woman without breasts. We cannot be whole, we cannot be happy, we cannot be successful without breasts. And this was an example of that. This woman was just going out to take a swim, and her aunt stopped her at the door and put socks in her baby suit top. Again, this is, I think, referring to a medical study that was done. So we're back to the medical side of things here. A while back now, there was a medical study that was done that concluded that it is psychologically harmful for a woman not to have breasts. There have since been other studies that have debunked that, but that thinking is still out there and persisting, and to me that was evident in this comment here. And then just this longing for support, right? People wanting to see what flat closure looks like, wanting to see that it's okay, wanting that confirmation that it's okay to be a woman that is flat-chested, and that we thrive and live amazing lives. And then longing again for something that can be supportive and helpful in that journey. So this person's comment follows my own timeline. So my surgery was 4 years ago in October, almost to the date. And it was hard finding these things. I had to search them out. And this person felt the same way. At the end of the walk, this woman in the middle here, Jill, said, I want a billboard during October, Breast Cancer Awareness Month, that talks about flat closure and tells people what it is. And I thought, wow, she was fired up about it. This was important to her. And then I thought, well, I'm a designer. I can design a billboard. And then I thought, I live in Vermont. We don't have billboards. I don't particularly want to design a billboard. But there are other things that I can do. And that's when this happened. I had this idea to do a No Money Fund project, which is in Terravane speak for getting a group of creative colleagues together to do a project that is not client-based. So it's untethered creativity. It's free of client briefs, deadlines, and budgets. Everybody involved just brings their best work to the project, and the results are really inspirational and beautiful. And I thought, what if we did a no money fund project, a photo shoot, get a group of flatties together, and I create a publication of some sort, and we would show how women who make this reconstruction choice are still themselves. That was the idea. So it's not an especially meaty idea. It's not really well thought out. I don't know what this publication looks like. I don't know how I'm going to distribute it. I don't have any of these answers right now, but this is a nagging idea that was persisting in my head, knocking around, making me restless. And I finally looked at Mark one day and I was talking to him about it, and he's like, Lisa, just ask Bob and Christy about it. So that's brave moment number 5. So I reached out to Bob Packard. He is an internationally published fashion and lifestyle photographer out of Boston. And we've worked with Bob for decades. He's worked on our projects, we've worked on his projects, we've done no money fund projects with him. And I reached out to Christy Raymond, who is the founder of Humankind Casting in Boston, and she specializes in inclusive casting and has been in the modeling industry for 35 years. She runs photo productions all the time. It's like second nature to her. Neither of these people knew my story, so it was, again, another vulnerable moment of having to be brave and tell them exactly what happened, what I did, what I was thinking, and ask, would you be interested in working on this project with me? And again, I was kind of expecting a no, because this is not the typical no money fund project. It's a heavy topic. It's an advocacy piece. It's personal. So I expected a no, and maybe kind of hoped for a no. Like, I wasn't sure about any of this. But there was, the response was an immediate, let's do it. And we were off and running. Within literally a month, I had named the project and branded it. I had put together a style guide for the photo shoot. So it talks about what the point of the shoot is, what the vibe of the shoot is, what kind of things I wanted people to wear, and what I wanted to communicate through these photographs that we would be taking. I designed a website for the project. This is all in about a month's worth of time. This was a fast track because we were ready to go. We put together this creative team, and let me tell you, the talent on this team is astounding, absolutely astounding. We had, I'll just go through them quickly. So this is Christy. Oh, I have a little funky thing. There's Christy, there's Bob, that's Mark. Cassie is our BTS photographer, so I don't know her. She reached out to me through my Instagram account and said, hey, if you need an extra photographer on hand, I'd like to help. And I said, come. And she took the most beautiful behind-the-scenes photographs of that photo shoot. This is Tom Thrasher. He's our Digitech, so his job is to monitor all the photographs as they're being taken and check for exposure and lighting, make sure we're staying on target. This, if I can find her here, this is Julie Paquette, our wardrobe stylist. Heather McGrath is our makeup artist. These are my daughters. So they wanted to be at the photo shoot with me. And I thought, well, if you're going to be there, we're putting you to work. This is a big production. We're getting 12 people through wardrobe, hair, and makeup, being photographed and being interviewed in the course of one day. So Hannah is in the hospitality. She manages a restaurant in New York City. So we took her on as our hospitality director, and she was in charge of just making sure everyone felt comfortable. And she's also kind of a Swiss Army knife, so wherever she was needed, she just dove in and was super helpful. She did a lot of art direction work. She took a fondness to the mini leaf blower that we used to blow hair to make it look like everybody's like in model mode. And then Nora is our writer, so she conducted the interviews and edited the stories for the book. So next we're up to brave moment number 6. We're getting up there in the numbers, and that was casting. So I know nothing about casting. I have a tiny little Instagram account with maybe 300, 400 people in it, very small reach. And I thought Christy was going to take care of the casting, and I was psyched to have somebody who was an expert at this at the helm, and she said, you need to do this. She goes, you're connected with this audience, you need to be the one doing these reach outs. And I was like, oh, she's right. But it was, again, nerve-wracking, because it's one thing to think that your idea is a good idea. It's a completely different thing for your creative team to think it's a good idea, and it's a completely different thing for your community to think it's a good idea. I did not know what the response was going to be. We were donated this beautiful studio space for 2 days to do this photo shoot. This is in Worcester, Massachusetts. And because this is a no money fund project, anybody who's participating in it is doing it on their own dime. They would need to be able to come to Worcester, cover their lodging, cover their expenses on their own. So I was really expecting a local response. And on top of that, I didn't know how many flatties were actually in the Worcester area, and I didn't know if they were seeing my casting call and from my tiny little account on Instagram and a little bit that I announced it in Facebook too. So what happened was actually pretty astounding. I was looking for 6 to 12 people to participate in this project. 6 was my minimum for getting it off the ground. 8 to 12 was my sweet spot because I was looking to represent diversity. I wanted a broad, diverse group of people because flat closure does not look any one way. It looks different on different bodies. So I wanted to show people of all ages, body types, and colors and show what their flat closure looks like and tell their stories. Because when I think about like what it was like for me to go through this and what I was looking for, to be able to see a flat closure on somebody that has a body like mine, to read a story of somebody's journey and notice that there are similarities in their journey to my own story, I could only imagine the hope and empowerment that would provide. So that was critical that I get the diversity. So what happened was I got more than 6, I got more than 12. I got 45 casting submissions from all over the country. And I had conversations with women in Germany, the UK, and the Netherlands who wanted to come to Worcester, Massachusetts to be part of this shoot. We chose these 12. And as part of the casting, we asked them, tell us the ways you are still after going flat. So let's see, Emily here is still fierce. That's the poster over there, in case you can't tell. Let's see who we got. Jeanette over here, she's still fabulous. Linda here, excuse the French, is still fucking going. And I just love it. So everybody's story is just dramatically different. Linda's a 30-year cancer survivor. Megan, she still has her binder on in that photo. She had just had her surgery. So we have this huge spectrum of stories and huge spectrum of people in different places in their journeys. And it was really, really wonderful to hear all their stories. So after we did the casting, they met with our wardrobe stylist to get an idea of what they wanted to wear on set. And then 2 weeks after that, we were loading into this photo studio. We set up the set. We had this big sheet of plexi with the still logo painted on it, and we had each of the flatties paint their still word on the plexi. And then Bob, our photographer in the back here, was painting just some expressive brush strokes on the back to add some more dimension and interest to the plexi. That evening we had a meetup, and this is where I start having difficulty talking about this project because what happened that evening was profoundly life-changing. The moment these people walked in the room, we were bonded and we were connected, and it was like we were family and that we have known each other forever. And I have never experienced anything like that before. It was really wild. I still get a little emotional about it. These people are amazing. They're my family. The next morning we were on set, crew was on set at 7:30 in the morning. Our first flattie came in at 8 o'clock, and their first stop was with Julie in wardrobe to pick out the specifics of their look. So she had racks and racks of clothing, shoes, accessories, all the things, and they picked out what they felt good in and what helped really convey their still phrase. Next stop was to work with Michelle. She did the hair and makeup for everybody. And once they were done with Michelle, they stepped into their looks and onto set where they painted their still phrases on the plexi. And then they had their photo sessions with Bob. There was a lot of art directing going on, a lot of judging, making sure all the details were right with the wardrobe and hair and everything. This is Bob and I checking the photos as they were being taken. So he shot tethered, which means his camera was connected to a computer. So we could see shots as they were being taken, and we could look at them and really judge whether we had the shots that we needed for whatever this publication I was going to be designing was going to be. Still had no clue. Here's Mark. This is the whole set. So this is like a great shot of the technical side of the shoot. You can see Tom on the other side there at the computer monitoring shots as they come in. That's me going, oh my God, this is amazing. The flatties are all huddled around. Bob's doing his thing. Mark is reflecting light back onto the model. And Christy is probably just out of sight yelling at people to turn their shoulder or lift their head. And then after their sessions with Bob, they went and they met with Nora, who conducted their interviews. So that's the technical side of the shoot, but what I want to show you is the vibe on set. So when I invited 12 people who had been through a cancer diagnosis or a high-risk diagnosis and had been through some stuff to come have their photos taken, I knew that it could raise some big emotions. And we were prepared for that. We put together a community agreement that outlined how we wanted people to take care of themselves, what to do if an issue arose. So if you felt uncomfortable or somebody said something that felt harmful to you, this is how we're going to take care of it. So we had it all laid out. We had both the cast and the crew read and sign that community agreement. It was a non-issue. This is what happened. So people just needed to come for their session, and then they were free to go, but everybody stayed. And they huddled around the set cheering while it was being photographed. So it was not about trauma and loss. It was about showing all the ways that we are still. And it was joyful, and it was beautiful, and it was uplifting. So that leads me to the projects. So now we had this photo shoot, I had all these incredible photos, and now it was time to tackle what is this publication. So I had originally thought it would be a publication that would be used in a healthcare setting. But once I saw these photographs and read these stories, I knew that this book needed to be more. So we designed the Still Anthology, which is our bigger book. That's this guy here. So it's 132 pages. It tells their full stories, raw, real, unfiltered, holds no punches. The good, bad, and ugly is in here. Because I think that's important for people to hear that complete story. So the Still Anthology looks a little bit like this. These are just a few slides from it. Each person, it has about 4 spreads in the book. And the first one introduces them in their still phrase, and that's where that painting comes into play. And then it tells their story. So these are just samplings of each person. And what is interesting to me, so at the same time this was going on, we were talking with the American Society of Breast Surgeons about potentially displaying some still materials at their annual meeting. And when we were showing them these photographs, they were actually in tears. And they said, we don't see this. These are surgeons. These are high-ranking breast surgeons. And they said, we don't see this. We do our surgeries. We do the appropriate follow-up care. And our patients go on and live their lives. So they were astounded to see this. It was really impactful for them. It's kind of wild to reduce a surgeon to tears, but that's what happened. And you can see everybody's different. Everybody's spreads have a different feeling. Their photos are all different, and they're so compelling. I mean, if that doesn't say still fierce, I don't know what does, right? And Jacqueline is so sexy. We had a really nice mix of survivors and previvors. We had people who had gotten implants and explanted and people who went straight to flat. We represented different types of incision patterns and different ways scars heal, different body types, really beautiful broad diversity. So the second publication we did was what I think I was originally intending to do, and which you haven't received there. This is the Still Compendium. This is a lighter version of the anthology. It's meant to be used in a medical setting, and we want surgeons to be using this to consult with their patients about flat closure. So it's edited to be concise, it's clean, it really focuses on their flat journey and the things they want other people to know about being a flat-chested person. So same photos, similar stories. At the end, we added some bonus material. Here we have perks of being a flatty and the reasons why these particular 12 people went flat, and the perks are really fun. They range from, I mean, I have some flatties in the room, most of you guys know, but it ranges from not having to wear a bra anymore, which is amazing, and running and jumping is awesome. Being legally allowed to go topless in public, that's great. I sit on the beach without my top on, and it's lovely. That breeze on your bare skin, wonderful. I think my favorite one is flat hugs, because you really feel close to people when you're hugging them. I had a woman tell me that when she had her mastectomy and went flat, she told her young son that their hearts are closer now when they hug. And I just thought that was amazing. We had a spread that talked about the different types of clothing flatties wear, because that's also, I think, a stumbling point for some people, like, what will I wear if I don't have boobs? And the answer is you can wear mostly anything. Things with darts, those are a little tricky, but you'd be surprised at how many things really fit a flat chest nicely. The third project we did was this poster show. You're seeing some of these posters up here. Mark, thanks for rehanging that over there. And it's a series of 12 posters, one for each body, and they're really designed to capture your attention from a distance and draw you in to read the stories. And this is meant to be a traveling exhibit. We're looking to exhibit this in museums and galleries and community spaces across the country. I'd like to see it go across the pond into Europe. I want to display this wherever we can display it. Whereas the books get this information and stills message into the hands of individuals, these posters get it in the public. And so it's tackling the same agenda, the same mission, but from a different perspective and with a different audience. So we first displayed these a couple weeks ago at the UVM's Women's Health and Cancer Conference. And it was astounding to me, one, to see these posters all in one space together, because they had lived on my computer and small proofs in my studio for months and months and months. And so to finally see this work completed and displayed was really incredible. But what's also incredible was the thoughtfulness in the people who viewed this work. It was well attended, despite the fact that we were down the end of a hallway. And people took time really reading these posters and looking at them and reading the descriptions that we had on, here's some shots from that show. And then having thoughtful discussions about women's health care, about agency, about the stigma around going flat, around societal narratives and tropes. And I thought, that's it right there. That's exactly what we need to have happening. It's for these conversations to be happening. I also did a series of posters. These were the very first ones that I did when I got the photos, that are just more campaign feelings, so they're less of an art piece or a design piece, but they're more of a campaign. And so they really focus on the photos, the still phrase, and some key information, a quote about going flat. And I'm thinking that these would be a really cool urban installation, something like that. So I'm looking at maybe trying to find a place in New York City or Chicago, somewhere big, that would be interested in displaying posters like this as a campaign. Subway posters, like, where can we get these things put out there? Because what a beautiful way to just share that message in a very quick take. These require some digesting and pondering. These are a quick take. So now I want to talk about the impact of this project. So all of this happened, so the last photo shoot was last September, so it's been about a year. These books were released in January, and still is now in 30 states and 3 countries, which is astounding to me. So this project, which I didn't know what I was doing or how I was going to do it, how I was going to get it out there, is happening organically, because people are getting the compendiums and they're sharing it with other people. They're sharing it with their friends, their loved ones, and so forth. And that's amazing. And they're also taking it to their healthcare providers, which is awesome. And they're saying, look at this thing, we'd like you to use it. I know a person who was actually in the middle of a lawsuit, a malpractice suit because her, a very unfortunate story, but when she went in for her flat closure, she went under anesthesia, woke up, was flat, but she was told after the fact that her surgeon never showed up for her surgery. And a general surgeon stepped in and did her surgery for her and did not do a great job. And she said that one of the asks that she had as a result of this lawsuit that she was dealing with was that they used this still compendium moving forward. Now we have medical practices ordering the still compendium. I started by just driving around to the hospital and dropping stuff off for people and saying, let me know how it works. And now I have medical practices ordering these online. So I just sent out an order of 20 or I can't remember, 20 or 30 compendiums to a medical office in California, and then another 40 just went out to a practice in Tennessee. Still was also invited to exhibit in some pretty interesting places. So the American Society of Breast Surgeons, when I pitched the posters to them to have them be part of their annual meeting, they said no. They did not have the space for that, but they were so taken and moved by the project that they gifted us a booth and said, come to exhibit this project to our surgeons, and that's what we did. So we went out to Las Vegas in May, and we spent a few days out there talking with breast surgeons about still, and it was overwhelmingly positively received. One person, one doctor from, I think she was from Texas, she said she does 2 flat closures a week, and she needed a gazillion of these compendiums, and she took two 20 packs. And then a friend was like, are you going to deal with this on the airplane? She's like, no, you're right. But they were like, this is needed. We need this. And what they really loved about it was, again, that diversity, because they said so many times people will come to them with a photo of a flat closure that is not achievable on their body. So they were thrilled to see the diversity represented. Still's been featured in a number of blogs, podcasts, and in various news outlets. We've been on the radio, we've been on TV. We are actually going to be on TV this weekend. So on Friday, NBC5 is doing a small little piece on us, about 1.5 minutes. And on Sunday, there will be a 10-minute segment, in-depth segment on Still. So if you want to check that out. We've won a couple of awards. So I was honored to receive the 20 Outstanding Women Award. So that's for Vermont and Northern New York. And for my work on Still. And then just recently, we won the anthology one, I should say, a Graphic Design USA Health and Wellness Award. So out of 2,500 submissions to this competition, Still was in the top 10%. So these are the messages that I get now. So instead, I'm still getting the horror stories. Those are still there, but I'm also getting these. And I'm crying all the time because this is making a difference with people. Yeah, I hear this all the time. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for being our voice. Thank you for putting this out there. Thank you for making it easier for us. Thank you for validating us. I love this one. Help me not feel like I was alone in this choice, because it's hard to find resources on flat closure. Doctors are not offering it. And so for people who this choice is the right choice, it is hard to find the support that you need. So that community piece and the support is huge. I don't know what to say. Like if someone says that your project that was a whim, that you didn't even know what you were doing, is life-changing to them. That's pretty powerful. And this one was actually a comment that we received in Las Vegas from a woman who worked at the Bellagio and was serving lunch to the surgeons. And she said her mother had mastectomy in her, she said in the 70s. Or in her 70s, I'm not sure actually. And she said she felt so much shame about her body, and it was really debilitating for her. And she said this project would have changed her life. I have people sharing their still phrases with me. This is so much fun. So still smiling, still on this pilgrimage, still resilient, still loving through it all. I get these all the time now. So it's really resonating with people. It's a message that I think people really need to hear and feel. Yeah, so Still's future, where's this all going? Somebody, a flattie from Oregon, came up to visit me a couple weeks ago, and she's like, so where are you going with all this? And I was like, I don't know. This has been a project of following the S's. So I have an idea, I put it out there. If people respond to it, if people say yes, if people want to help with it, because it is a no money fund project, we follow the path. And so this is what I've just shared with you is the path this project has taken in 1 year. As for the future, I would like the Still Compendium to be the tool that surgeons use to talk to their patients about aesthetic prosthesis. There's nothing like it out there. There are pamphlets, there are some websites you can go to, but there's no tool to help surgeons talk to their patients about flat closure. I want to share more stories. We just did another casting and another photo shoot for the second volume of the anthology. And it was still as life-changing and profound as the first one, but also incredibly different because we did it differently. So we were shooting Boston. This was September 26th and 27th. Same deal, we had this incredible photo studio that was donated to us to do this work. We got in the afternoon on a Friday and set up the set. We had a new wardrobe stylist who was just outer limits, like the things that she brought in were just incredibly gorgeous and stunning. Like the last time, our flatties worked with Michelle and Julie, our stylists, to get their looks put together and their makeup done. Tom was back on board as our digitech, and Bob and I were still working together on monitoring shots as they were being taken. And these are some of the results. So shooting in color, on different color backgrounds. Elise is still bold. Kate is still punk as fuck. Valencia is still, oh my gosh, still loving life. Anna is still vibrant. Stacy is still here. Lori is still creating. Valencia is still amazing. Stephanie is still a warrior. Erin is still desirable. Carly is still standing. Caitlin, in the middle there, she's 27 years old, is still powerful. And Shannon on the end there is still femme. Other goals are to expand reach. 30 states is great, but why not all 50? Why not get more doctors using this work and have this be just the thing that's out there for people to use and provide hope and empowerment for their own journeys. And so that's my story. That's the story. So we do have time for questions if anybody has questions. Or maybe I just nailed it.
So I'm curious, when you say it's a no money, so who is paying for all this mailing, and is that your
So there is some out-of-pocket expense on my end for some of this, but generally, like, everybody that's participating is covering their own out-of-pocket expenses. And we're really keeping it to a minimum. So we had a printer donate all the printing for the compendium, so we were able to offer those to healthcare providers at no cost right now. So literally, we're handing them out like Halloween candy, like just order them. I had somebody from UVM said, oh, we ran out, we're photocopying our last copy. And I'm like, no, order some more, we've got plenty. So there's just been an incredible generosity across the board between the creative team and our partners that are working with us on Still and donating all kinds of things to make it happen. Yeah. It's almost, that part of the story is almost as compelling to me as the story itself, because it really shows what can be achieved working outside the bounds of traditional business. If I was limited to a budget, this wouldn't exist. If I was if I was doing this on my own and I didn't have these colleagues that were saying yes to helping me, I might have created something, but it wouldn't be this. So this is the result of an incredible amount of generosity from a multitude of people.
So is there going to be a billboard?
A what?
Billboard.
A billboard? Well, it's so funny because I met up with Jill a while back. Well, she was at the launch party in January. And I said, I didn't give you a billboard, but I gave you some books and posters. And she goes, I still want the billboard. I'm like, okay. Like but again, like this collaboration, right? If she can figure out the billboard piece and get that donated, and they can hand me some specs for designing a billboard, I will design the billboard. Yeah. Yeah. So we're thinking about other projects for Still as well. And there are just a lot of ideas that are floating around. And I think my focus right now is on this next anthology, expanding the compendium. We are already committing to doing a third anthology. We've got the shoot date on the calendar already. And we're talking about doing a reunion between the three groups, what will then be three groups of Still Flatties. So that's all very new. We're still really figuring it all out. But there are other projects in between things that we're also considering, other print projects, just other ways to get these materials and these messages out in front of people. Yeah.
So you said, did you have your surgery in Vermont?
I did.
So someone there knew how to do that.
Yeah, yeah. There are several really good surgeons in Vermont doing flat closures. Yeah, so the surgeon I went with, I interviewed a bunch of people, and I was armed with the information that I got from not putting on a shirt. I had their little diagram of different incision patterns, and I had all the questions to ask and everything. And the person I went with was someone who had helped me with one of my breast cancer scares years ago, and so I had a relationship with her. And when I went in to speak with her, Mark came with me. Mark came with me to every single appointment, before, during, and after. He was the person who changed and emptied my drains for me after my surgery, and stood by the shower in case I felt unsteady, and put ice packs on my chest, like the best post-surgical nurse a person could ever want. But anyways, he was with me at this consultation, and she took so much time explaining how she approaches flat closure, what's important to her, and was very real about what my expectations should be. She showed me how the drains work. She got out paper and she sketched how things work, and how it was like sewing, like, you know, it was very sort of calculated and intentional. And, you know, from the other surgeons I got yeah, I can do a flat closure, but it's really, I hate that so many people are making mastectomies. You know, yeah, but let's get to work here. So I really like this particular surgeon's approach and her willingness to share information and be very real with us about what the expectation was. And it was like I said, it was easy. 2 hours surgery, recovered at home, didn't need any narcotics. I alternated Tylenol and Motrin, was comfortable. I had full use of my arms afterwards. I was not restricted. She said, you're not going to be able to lift your arms high, but try. Like, wash your own hair, reach for things, you know, don't be crazy, but like she said, don't limit yourself either. And so my healing was pretty quick. And what was exciting for me actually was really like finally diving into what being flat was like. What do my clothes look like on me? Do I want to wear prosthetics? That was up on the table. They give you a prescription for one after you have your surgery. And so I ordered some from Athleta. They have a beautiful mastectomy bra and some inexpensive prosthetics. And I ordered them in every size, A, B, C, D. Because I thought, maybe I want to be a smart A cup, but maybe some days I might want more Baba Boom. And maybe I can play with it and change it up. Or maybe, as I decided, I don't want to wear them at all, because good golly, I could not figure out where those things were supposed to go. They were either too high or too low or too far apart or too close, and they just didn't feel normal or real. And I felt like I was hiding my truth wearing them. They weren't replacing what I had lost in any way for me. And it felt more authentic and true to myself and who I am to just be flat.
So how can those of us like me who are completely uncreative and can't help with that process, but whose lives have been deeply impacted by breast cancer across several family members, including myself, support you and support this project, because it's an amazing, amazing project.
Thank you. Sharing the work is huge. So taking it to your own doctors, sharing it with family members, sharing it with other people that have been affected by cancer, that's huge. That's how we've gotten to 30 states and 3 countries. We are, the 3 countries, by the way, are our own country. We're in Canada as well, and in India. I had a surgeon in India who was very, very interested in the compendium, because most patients that have mastectomies in India do go flat because they don't have the money for implants. But there's no support or information about the impact or what life is like after going flat. And so she was very happy to have the compendium.
You can also, do you still have the donation button on
We
the website?
do, yeah, so you're very, very welcome to make a donation to still. My little bank account would appreciate that. But honestly, also, we're not a nonprofit, so it's not tax deductible, so just know that. I don't want to be a nonprofit. A lot of people ask me about that, and I already own a business, and life is already busy enough as it is, and this is really meant to be, this project fills 2 buckets for me, right? It's the advocacy work that it is doing that is important to me based on my own experience and what I've heard other people's experiences to be. But it's also a creative project, so, and it's one that I've really been able to sink my teeth into. I'm a different designer today than I was a year ago because of this project, and so there's a lot of value in it for me to keep it as an interrogating project and have it be really rooted in the creative process.
Anyone else? All right, well, thank you so much, Lisa. It was an amazing presentation and
Thank you.
really heartwarming.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. I appreciate being able to tell a story.